The market has been very bearish over the last couple of weeks between the government shutdown, geopolitical issues, and tariffs. Things have been pretty crazy. And we also had some earnings calls, one specifically on Meta, which disrupted the market on their earnings call. And this was not good. It had the market pulling back quite a bit. All the stocks are pretty much down. But this week, there's going to be a lot of things that are likely to change, more specifically with the tariff truce between Trump and China, which has most recently happened, and some updated news on that over the weekend. So if you are wondering what your favorite stocks in the market is likely to do this week, this is the video for you. And if you want to make the profits that my students are making, you can see right here on the left side of the screen, or the right side of the screen for you, then you will want to stick around and watch all of this video. And if you're confused by any of it and you want to make profits like this and grow your portfolio like this as well, then the link to get started in Discord is below. We're going to talk about the VIX. I'm going to explain to you guys volatility. I'm going to explain to you guys which stocks are likely to run this week and how the market is likely to play out. And strap in, stick around for all of this video. Don't skip any part, because I'm going to show you a very powerful tip and strategy that I utilize that'll show you what is almost guaranteed to happen tomorrow in the market, and you're going to be able to run this strategy tonight. So let's get right into the video at hand. Also, we've had a lot of misunderstanding on YouTube for whatever reason, saying that Meta went down, and I told everyone to take Meta. I didn't really issue any trades on YouTube about anyone following me here on YouTube to take Meta. My Discord and I had a trade on Meta, and we took profits before the stock went down. We took profits before the stock went down because that's what you do when the stock is running before earnings. You take profits. Anybody who held, they're holding on to the leap options going through the rest of the year where Meta will recover. I have students that made tens of thousands of dollars on Meta. So that was yet again another winning trade. If you get into a stock where I've issued a trade and the stock runs up and you don't get out and then it tanks, you held on too long. We made money on Meta just like we did on everything else. So the government shutdown continues, and we're approaching November 4th, which would mean that this shutdown is the longest in history, exceeding 35 days from Trump's first term. However, the market is going to be a little jumpy this week because of that, and the government doesn't reopen. That's also going to be a somewhat negative point for the stock market, but it's not really the big contributing factor. It's more or less the tariff issues going on with China. As you could see that when the government originally shut down, the volatility did not spike that much on the VIX, and when it did, it came right back down, and the market did pretty well, all things considered, the week after. It was only during the threats or the tariff threats between China and Trump and the issues between the two countries where things became really shaky, meaning, historically speaking, during government shutdowns, the stock market recovers pretty quickly and does very well thereafter. So I expect the same thing to continue. However, with the issues with tariffs, that is the most part what is weighing in on the market negatively. But with this most recent update, things are looking a lot better. The White House on Saturday released details about the agreement that President Trump reached this week with Chinese President Xi Jinping to de-escalate their country's trade war, including U.S. tariffs, reductions, and a pause in Beijing's new restrictions on rare earth metals and magnets. The deal will also include resumption of Chinese purchases of American soybeans, and averts to Trump's threatened 100% tariffs on Chinese goods, and extends a delicate trade truce between the world's two largest economies for about a year. The U.S. will have 20% tariffs on Chinese goods related to supplies of fentanyl opioid precursor chemicals coming from China. The reduction to 10% on the duties first imposed in February will cut the overall U.S. tariff rate on Chinese imports to about 47% from 57%. The total includes duties of about 25% imposed on Chinese imports during Trump's first term in the White House, and a reduced 10% reciprocal tariff that was imposed in April in the most favored nation tariff rates. So this is a lot better. And this truce happened over the weekend, Friday, Saturday, and today. So this is likely to have a pretty positive impact on the market. And later on in this video, I will show you how to gauge what is almost guaranteed to happen tomorrow. I'll show you how to do that 12 hours in advance. But let me show you the VIX. When we look at the VIX and we go back all the way, even on the daily chart through history, you can see about every 4 months, we have a pretty big spike. And then from right here, there was about a 3-year spike to the next big one. And then we've had another one right here and then another mini one right here. So if the government shutdown is averted and abated in the next week or two or sooner, and the tariff talks keep getting better like they are, we, based on history, are unlikely to see another real spike in the VIX until somewhere between June of 27 and end of 27. We could get a good year and a half of good market trend. And that's just basically off of the history. If you see there's a big spike, then there's all these little mini spikes. Now, if you go through the spikes on the VIX from 2020 until 2022, you have about 8 spikes. There's anywhere from 3 to 4 spikes per year. And every 2 to 3 years, a big one here, big one here. But we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 mini spikes in the past almost year and a half. So it's right in average, a little bit more elevated over the last year, but the tariff talks have been doing that. But in reality, about every 2 to 3 months, you have a little bit of a scare or a little bit of a spike in volatility. And based on that history, as long as the government shutdown is abated at some point here in the next couple of weeks or sooner, the sooner the better, and tariff talks keep getting better, we'll probably dwindle down on the VIX. So if you see here, the way it's kind of going down like this, barring, of course, this big spike, the VIX could come up a little bit this week and next week and kind of dwindle like this. And then we'll have another spike somewhere in March of 26 or April. There'll be another one. Not sure exactly where it would be, but that's the trend. You can see how it does this. This is like the lows versus the highs. And history always repeats itself. The trends are pretty typical. This is pretty much how the VIX goes. And if we take that and move it over here and move this over here, this shows you exactly what I just showed you. History repeats itself, meaning based on history, it's likely that going through March, everything will be great. And somewhere in March or April, maybe June, we could have a little bit of a spike, maybe sooner. But generally speaking, this is what we could be looking at. Now, with that being said, let me clean all this up. Typically speaking, looking at the VIX, I have a setup how I run the VIX, and between green and yellow, which is $18 to $20, is very stable, very strong, but slightly elevated. Below green, below 18, very low VIX, which is where we're currently at. Very, very stable market for the most part. Between yellow and orange is highly elevated, and between 25 and 30, which is orange and red, it's extreme volatility, and over red is insane volatility. Now, you have to understand when you're selling options below green, below 18, doesn't really make a lot of sense because you could be selling a 35 delta on Tesla a week out and make $400. Whereas if you sell a 35 delta on Tesla when the volatility is not below 18, let's say it's above 20, say 23, 24, 25, that same option a week out, 35 delta, you could end up making 800 to 1,000. And if it's above 25 and let's say closer to 30 or more, you could end up making $1,500 or $1,800 on it. So it doesn't really make sense to sell options below 18. I think you want a balance of safety and premium. So the best place to sell options is usually between 18 and 20 or between 20 and 25 on stocks that you want, stocks that are good. Because remember, if a stock is good and you want it and nothing's fundamentally changed with the stock and is just going down because the VIX is going up, it makes it prime opportunity to collect that premium, get into the stock, because then when the volatility goes down and the stock runs, you're taking the profits with you. So typically below 18 is a option buying opportunity, and between 18 and 20 is kind of a little bit of both. But as you get above 20, the buying is not as good and it's better to be selling, but you can still be buying options because remember, it's based on implied volatility, IV percentage times Vega, which is a Greek. Which means if you buy an option on Tesla when the VIX is 20 and the VIX runs to 30, even if the stock goes down $1, there's a chance that option, very likelihood that option's worth more because of the volatility. You have to understand that. This is where big institutions make their money. IV crush. When the IV is up, the VIX is up, they sell put options on stocks that have earnings. And the very next day when the stock only goes up a little bit or goes down a little bit, the option's worth a lot less because the IV is crushed. Look it up. IV crush is one of the biggest ways to make money. That's how big institutions make money. If any of this is confusing you, you're having trouble understanding any of this, then like I said, I offer full training course, one-on-one coaching, Discord, morning coaching calls twice a week. You make the profits that you're seeing on the screen right there. You can join Discord. The link to get started is below, and I'd love to help you understand how to do all of this. But this is how the market really works, and this is all based on volatility. So what we're going to do now is dive into a couple of stocks that are likely to do well this week. I told you guys previously a little tidbit. ARM is a really good trade going out to January 15th, 2027, $230 calls. I've already dollar cost averaged. My break even on ARM is right around 170. 171. So now it's all profit going forward as this stock goes up, and ARM is likely to do well. They have earnings in 3 days. It's probably going to run up a bit going into earnings. If it doesn't, then it will likely run after earnings. Typically, stocks either run on the news, sell off on the event, or they sell off on the news, they run on the event. Very rarely does a stock run through news and the event unless it's stellar, and very rarely does a stock ever sell off for the news and the event unless it's terrible. They miss earnings and the guidance is bad, and everybody expects that to be the case. ARM, we do not expect that. MicroStrategy, a lot of people want to talk about it. They're hedged on Bitcoin and the economy as long as the government shut down and there's tariff issues and we're not getting the rate cuts that we expect, which we're not getting. This is going to be an issue for MicroStrategy. Serve Robotics bounced off the $13 mark yet again, marking another opportunity to potentially dollar cost average. You want to be safe. Shopify also has earnings. My Discord has trades on Shopify likely to do well, but there's also that potential that it could sell off just because of the market and the instability. Navitas is showing very strong signs at $12.50. At the current price of $13.54, you could dollar cost average. Remember, you want to be safe, no more than 10% of your portfolio in any one stock or one position. So you have to be very careful with Navitas. AMD, very strong stock, earnings in 2 days. My Discord is in a specific trade for this stock. Be very cautious because of the double top peaks that we've had. One here, one here, one here, and a lot of big wick candles. And there is a lot of bearish sentiment, not because the stock isn't good, but because the guidance going forward may not be as expected and the stock has already reached all-time highs. So there is that possibility, very strong possibility, even on a good earnings. It could run, pull back down, but eventually in the next week or two or sooner, we could see a pullback to the 225, 230 range. I don't think this stock would tank. Somewhere between 220 and 240. The stock could end up down here after earnings, very likely, just because of the way the nature of this stock, earnings, the guidance, and how things work. Netflix, another stock that's good, having problems, showing signs of stability. We have finally a forward split on Netflix, which is happening. It's coming up. I don't see where this news on what the split is going to be. It doesn't show, but I assume it's 10-1 right here. So the stock's now going to become $111, and they're going to expand their share float from 400 million to 4.2 billion. And this is going to happen on the 13th. So this is something I've been talking about for quite some time, and it's finally happening. It needs to happen. The stock is expensive. Microsoft crushed earnings. Their guidance was good. New partnerships. Another strong, stable stock right here at 514. Likely to jump up and gap up. I'll show you how we're going to gauge that. That's likely to happen this week. Meta crushed earnings because they took a $16 billion tax hit. It put them in the red because their actual was $1.05, but they actually did much higher than the estimate, but you got to account for the taxes that they paid. So as people start to realize how much they crushed, the stock will likely recover a lot in the next week or two. Very strong company. SoFi, yet again, another strong company I've talked a lot about. This is one that is going to run up again. Like I said, my price target by the end of the year was 25 to 30. It's already achieved that. And by New Year's now, I expect 33 to 35. It's very possible. This is a very strong company, so I would be dollar cost averaging, adding to your portfolio. Palantir has broke $200. I told everybody in the Discord, I told you on previous YouTube videos, Palantir could run to 200 by the end of the year. Are you surprised how many times I've said something would happen and it did? And here you go. Palantir over 200. It's got earnings coming up. In my opinion, this earnings is going to be pretty chaotic. And it could run up, but it could also dip. But I think we're leaning towards a dip back down to 175, 180, only because of the fact that this stock is extremely overvalued at this point. But it wouldn't surprise me to run because of the geopolitical issues. This stock tends to love that because of its government contracts, and they are in defense and AI. So it's very hard to say exactly what's going to happen. I'm leaning towards the possibility it could dip, but it could also run very high. It could run up to 215, 220, but you got to be very cautious because that dip back down to 170 or even 155, 160 very well could happen. Very strong possibility. Tesla is another one that has had some very high runs resisting the supply zone here. If you guys want to learn what supply zone is and demand zones, how to properly read them, I teach that in Discord. And you can see right here, they missed the most recent earnings yet again. So it's basically all up to Robotaxi and Optimus robots and AI and pretty much things that Elon Musk says and people's belief in Tesla, their future guidance. A lot of resistance here in the supply zone. Be very careful. This stock is likely to bounce back if it goes anywhere near the $475 to $480 price tag. And so you want to be very, very cautious with this stock. There could be a nice dip back down into the 388 to 400 range. You got to be very cautious with Tesla. So I told you guys I would share with you today a very powerful strategy on how to gauge the market, what's almost guaranteed to happen tomorrow, and you can do it today. But before we do that, if you're very confused by all the things I talked about in this video with price action, the VIX, how to sell options, Vega, implied volatility, just all this stuff confuses you. Maybe you just want to learn or get better in the stock market. Let me show you how to take control of your financial future, your trading, and how to grow your portfolio the right way. And if you want to make the profits like you're seeing on the screen right here, my students made tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on our most recent trades. I would love to help you, but don't take my word for it. Let's take a listen to what my student Xander had to say. So today we are here with one of my newest students, Xander. How you doing, Xander?
Good.
Awesome. Glad to hear.
Yeah. So when I was watching other YouTubers, they were really pushing a certain mode of saying oh, you're going to make $1 million, over 500,000 with such a small account, and pushing so many numbers that just seems so unrealistic, where you seem to push a more focused strategy and actually explain stuff more to the point instead of just pushing the Discord. And it just made me pick yours over everyone else's. You didn't try and give unrealistic expectations, right? You actually gave a focused and clear strategy to how we'd make money.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear. And that is the goal.
I originally started with $12,000 when I joined your Discord. I never done options before that. And it's kind of crazy what I'm at now. From $12,000 just a month in your Discord, I'm at just over $104,000. So just unbelievable, life-changing money. It's just crazy.
Wow. So you went from 12,000 over 104,000 in 1 month in the Discord.
Yeah, just unbelievable. I couldn't believe it when I did around 9 trades, and just the amount of success that your trades were and so accurate. It was like 9 out of 9 trades, 104,000 from 12. I couldn't thank you more. It's just been awesome.
Awesome. That is amazing success. And in 1 month, that is like a 10x return, which is
1,000%. Yeah, over 1,000% I made in 1 month, just from your strategies and just from what you've put out in the Discord.
Based on what it cost you to join and what you've made and the group itself and just overall the education I provide, is it worth it?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, people need to understand that your Discord community is insane. I made, in the span of a month, I made 12 new friends that have just been helping me and explaining to me trades that I haven't even thought about taking that were put out from you, and just explain the trades and give me an overall better understanding of how your Discord works. And if anybody's thinking of joining the Discord, 100%, please go through those training modules. They're step by step, and obviously they'll learn at your pace. So if you can't do it some days, it's okay. But those training modules really gave me a baseline of how to actually do the options and how to take Corey's trades. And once I got to the module, I got through in the week. I just destroyed them all. I love learning. After that, I started to take trades, and there's just profits from there. Unbelievable. And I just couldn't thank Corey more.
So you heard my student Xander had to say, if you want this to be your success story, or maybe something similar and more custom to you and your portfolio, and you want this kind of success, use the link in the information box below to get started so that I can help you grow your portfolio and show you what you're doing wrong. So let's dive in. Let me show you this strategy. You're going to want to type up in your trading view. You're going to want to pull up the MES, which is the Micro Mini S&P 500 futures. When you pull this up, whatever happens today, Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, this will show you whatever happens today and tonight, overnight, is almost guaranteed to happen tomorrow morning. So if this gaps up, let's say it gaps up like this, then the current price becomes support and the market will move up. If it gaps down like this, well, then this becomes resistant and the market could go down. Now, it could swing either way tomorrow and in the week, but almost every time what happens here on the MES happens tomorrow morning. And I'm going to show you a very specific event that happened in May of 2025. And I use this specific event all the time. And the reason I do that is because it's huge, but I'll also show you what happened last week. When we look here, last Monday, you can see Sunday at 6 p.m., the VIX gapped all the way up. If we go over to Microsoft last Sunday right here, last Monday at 4 a.m., you can see that it gapped up. On MES, Sunday it gapped up. The following morning, Microsoft gapped up. If we look at Meta, same exact thing. Right there at the bottom of the screen, you can see Monday the 27th, 5 a.m., 4 a.m., gapped up. Every time the MES makes a move, the stock market follows the following morning. I'll show you an even bigger one. It works for bearish or bullish. So right here on Friday, May 9th, Sunday, May 11th, S&P, mini S&P futures gap up on May 11th. And if we were to go back on Microsoft to May 12th, right there, you see it gapped up. The exact same thing happened on Meta and every other stock. Every time the S&P minis gap up or down or go up or down or consolidate, whatever they do, the market follows. The reason being is because the Chinese stock market and the Japanese stock market open at 8 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Eastern, and London and England open up their stock market at 2 a.m. Eastern. So overnight on Sunday, all of this is happening in our market. The move is predetermined what's going to happen when the bell opens at 9:30 a.m. And you can do all of this starting tonight at 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific. So hopefully you guys understand this and hopefully it helps you with what's likely to happen in the market this week. I look forward to helping you grow your portfolio. If you want to join, make the profits you're seeing on the screen right now, link to get started in Discord is below. I'll see you in the next video or the Discord real soon. One love, fam.